Shalom, shalom. This week we will be reading Parashat Vayeira. And I'd like to take this time to take a look at Lot. Now, in the past, I have not been so kind when talking about Lot, about what he's done and why he's done it. But this week I wanted to take a look based on the verses that were given. We can really get a pretty good psychological profile of him. And I want to say perhaps what I see why he might have done what he did and what we can learn from it, and move on from there. So let's take a look at the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where God saw fit to come down and utterly obliterate these cities because they were steeped in despicable, evil behavior that was beyond the pale, and he thought he just needed to destroy them. And it says, we're told even after the story, that God remembered, it says Abraham, and so he decided to take Lot out of there. So from what it sounds like, it was in the merit of Abraham, perhaps not to cause him, um, pain and sorrow that his nephew would have been destroyed. And perhaps that's why God saved, and that's what it sounds like when it says that God remembered Abraham, and so he saved Lot. But I want to say, and I'll explain to you why I think this later, is that perhaps it was actually in the merit, in Lot's own merit, that things that he learned from Abram. So God had remembered Abraham, meaning he saw these attributes of Abraham within Lot that he thought it was worthy of saving Lot because he saw something in him that was very valuable, that um, needed to be saved and um, protected for the future. Now, let's look at the story. So, when God was about to destroy the cities, he sent angels, messengers to go and save Lot. Now, when they got to the city, Lot was sitting at the gate of the city and he sees them as it's getting dark. And he says, come to my house and you'll sleep there, and you'll rest and you'll stay till the morning, and then you'll go on your way. Now, that was putting his life on the line because the city of Sodom did not take kindly to people being hospitable, to having strangers, to feeding strangers. They were a very closed city. They did not allow for this. So, this hospitality alone, he was risking his life, and his hospitable nature, undoubtedly, he learned from Abraham. Abraham was the most hospitable person, and we see Lot's behavior actually juxtaposed to Abram's in the same exact parsha, because Abram had these three angels appear to him, and Abraham said to them, as we're told, them more ma'at v'se'arbe. He said, little, just, come wash your feet, rest a little bit under the tree, and maybe I'll give you a little bit to eat. But he gave them the full treatment. He took the best of everything, the best of his flour, the best of his meat, the best of everything, and really pampered them and took care of them. And Lot was, said a little bit and didn't do very much more. But okay, he pressed them. They didn't actually want to go stay with him, and he pressed them and they came. Now, once the people found out that Lot had these men there, they all came. It says of all ages, they just went there, and like like a mad mob, if you can imagine such a thing nowadays, a mad mob of evil people wanting to come in and sodomize the guests of Lot. And Lot, again, putting his life on his line, went out, did the wrong thing, offered his daughters instead, but he was trying his best, not defending him, whatever, but he did put his life on the line for strange people and tried with everything that he had to protect them from a horrible demise. Um, and anyway, so God in his miracles had these people blinded, and the angels grabbed them back in, and they said, listen, this city is about to be destroyed. Who's around? Who's your family? Tell all your family members and let's get out of here. So he goes to tell his son-in-laws, and they looked at him like he was an utter clown. It says, they like, you're ridiculous. What do you mean? They lived in this, in the best place you could possibly live. It was this huge, beautiful city with a king and lots of possessions and a gorgeous place to live. And they just did not believe him. They just laughed at him. Now, Lot started to, he didn't, he knew, he believed the angels, but he was tarrying. He wasn't going. Now, Rashi says because of his many possessions, maybe that's the case. Maybe more, I'd like to think that he didn't want to leave his daughters with his son-in-laws behind. Whatever the case is, again, he didn't run out, to save his life. I believe perhaps he was caring about his daughters and his son-in-laws, and he had him and his wife and his other two daughters had to be grabbed by the arms, and they literally had to be dragged out of there in order for their lives to be saved. So they get out, and what happens? The angel says, "You got to flee to the mountains and save your life." And Lot says this sentence that has always been an enigma to me. He said, "I can't go to the mountains because if that's the case, evil might stick to me and he's going to die." And I never understood what that meant. I'm still not sure what it means, but I have a perhaps that I want to share with you that I think fits into everything I'm trying to say. Um, and I'll explain in a second. But so he says, "Please let me go to this. There's a small city, and Saora, can I go there and just stay there because, like he said, he doesn't want to die from this evil he thought that was going to stick to him." So the angel says, "Okay, we'll listen to you about this as well, and you can go. Just go." He ended up in the end being so afraid and fleeing to the mountain anyway, where we know this horrible story of the daughters. He was in the mountain. His wife had died because she was told not to look behind. You're not supposed to look at when there's destruction of your people. You should not see that. You should not watch that. Let that also be a lesson for us. These are not things that we should be watching or seeing. Um, Even though it's really hard not to, especially today with the news when we're showing these things and like whatever. But the best thing is not to do that. Anyways, she did that. She turned into a pillow straw, and he was left when he went to the mountain with just his two daughters, who thought that that was going to be the end of mankind. And so they got their father drunk, and the older one slept with him, and the younger one then went and slept with him. And so they got impregnated and gave birth to Ammon and Moab, who became the father of these big nations. Anyway, so let's look at Lot. Now, what I think is the problem with Lot is he did have good qualities. He learned he learned how to be hospitable. He learned how to give and to try to do for others, and that was a great thing. But I think his problem is this need, which it seems like a good thing, need always to be around somebody else. Now, what am I saying? Why am I saying this? In the beginning, we're told when we first hear of Lot that he was a nephew of Abraham, and he tagged along with Abraham. He didn't want to be by himself. He wanted to be with Abraham. He stayed with Abraham for a very long time until he had the problem. And then he already had big family and possessions and lots of things. And that's when there was the fight between the shepherds of Abraham and Lot, and he separated and went to Sodom. He went to Sodom because it was this big, huge city with lots of people. And I think he needed to be around people. Again, proven by the fact that it was evening time and Lot was still sitting by the gate. He always wanted to be with other people, talking to other people, perhaps bringing other people into his house. He didn't want to be alone. It's a personality type of people who cannot be by themselves. And this is a problem. Why is this a problem? Because really, all of us, all of us are infused with the breath of God. There's God within us. We have this power, this ability, this beauty, this strength that is God within. And we have to learn and know how to trust ourselves, how to listen to that inner voice, how to um, connect with God. And it's very important to do things with other people and amongst other people, but not all the time. There's time where you have to Be by yourself, come into your own, and be comfortable with that space and that inner voice and work with that. And he, I don't think, ever got accustomed to that. And why do I say that? Even more so than the things that I've just said, is that when he told the angels, he said that I have to go to another city. I can't go to that mountain by myself because I will just, my evil will stick to me and I'll die. I think he's talking about being alone. He was afraid to be himself. He didn't think he could make it by himself. That would be the end of him. That would be the worst thing. And he wanted to go at least to the little city where he could be with some people, and then he could be around people, perhaps even help them or do good for them or whatever, but not to be by himself, because this is also a concept we're told not to depend on other people. It's in our prayers so much in the morning. Nobody should depend on anybody, only depend on God. God, at the end of the day, is the one who will be there for us and the one who will empower us to be able to do the right thing if we believe and have faith and connect to that. And Lot didn't have that ability. And because he didn't have faith in himself and he didn't trust in himself, he kept falling into making wrong decisions, like where to go to Stone, like when he went to the mountain, he couldn't handle it. And that's why he let himself become drunk. That's it. He didn't have faith in himself and in his own sanity and his own power of his mind and to just be. And that was a problem. But what God saw in him is that he did have it. He just didn't use it and connect with it. It was there. And he learned a lot from Abraham. And he had an Abrahamic quality within that was so good and so powerful that he was spared for that. God remembered the Abrahamic quality within him, and that it would eventually come out because he, the father of the nation of Moab, where Ruth, the great grandmother of David HaMelech, was going to come from. This is where our Savior comes from. But our challenge through all these generations, until Ruth came in, until David HaMelech came in, until the ultimate Mashiach will come, is for all of us to understand and to access and to have faith of the God within us, the power within us to do the right thing and to have that ability and to connect. We have to be able to have those quiet moments. We have to learn how to be with ourselves, to trust in ourselves, to know that we have God within ourselves and the power to be and to do what is right when we're on our own. We can't always be with our teacher, our parent, our spouse, our whoever it is that we're putting our all of our security onto another person. Cannot do that. You can't do that with people, because people will not always be there for you. Only God will always be there for you if you want to let yourself connect with that. And so that's my message. And I hope that we can all get closer and closer to doing that. It's a process. It's not something that happens easily. Slowly but slowly, it starts with the desire and with the knowledge that it can be done. And with that, you can move closer and closer to, hopefully we all get strong, chazak b'amatz. And then when we're all strong individuals, imagine that the power of the togetherness when we're together and we need to do what we need to do. And when we're happy and control and we feel that strength of God in us, we're more at peace with ourselves, so we're at peace with others. And that's where we need to be headed. That's really where the security of our future lies. Shabbat shalom.